Welcome to Tete a Tete, a place for hope, truth, and healing. Thank you for tuning in. And today we're going to do something a little bit different where I have my wife asking me a few questions in regards to victimhood mentality. And we're going to dissect it just a little bit from my opinion, from my point of view, things that I've been through. And hopefully you guys get some value out of this. And hopefully if you do, subscribe, share it. Don't just leave it to yourself. Share it with everybody else. Thank you.
When you look back on your life, what are the things you could claim victimhood over if you wanted to?
If I wanted to, I could claim victimhood over the fact that I was born in a very, very impoverished country. The fact that I was SA at 6, 7 years old. The fact that as good as of an opportunity that it was for me to get out of Haiti when I did, I could whine about the fact that I didn't move with my parents. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know English. There are a lot of things, but I think those are some of the main ones I think I could claim victimhood over.
How long did you feel like a victim for?
The answer is never. Now, it's important to dissect this a little bit. Have I been a victim? Absolutely. Just like many of you. Let's just use the CSA aspect of it. At 6, 7 years old, 100% I was a victim. There is that. And then the other side of that is, am I in a victimhood mentality? Am I living a victimhood life? Absolutely not. By definition, a lot of us get victimed by situations, by people. But the key is to not live a victimhood life, to not have a victimhood mentality. Very big distinction.
At what point did you decide to, quote unquote, take your power back?
Let's talk about the CSA part. That's something that I'm passionate about. I'm writing my book on that. And I do market research on TikTok. I talk to people about that. I recently did an interview with somebody who used to be in Hollywood, Juliet, about CSA. The thing is, along with a lot of people who've been victims, not necessarily living a victimhood life or having a victimhood mentality, but people who have been victim of certain situations, a lot of times they don't know if they have, which is where I fall in. And sometimes if they know, they don't know what to do with that fact. Where to go? Who to talk to? What about my shame? It's a secret. Am I going to get help? When can I get help? Would I get help? There are so many things that go into it that by asking all these questions, it somehow corners you go into a quote unquote closet, a metaphorical closet, meaning you don't want to come out and talk about it because you're so ashamed of everything. And so for me, it was the CSA. So I didn't know that I was, I guess, SA'd or CSA, or I was a victim of CSA until I met my wife. And that's the person that I really opened up to. And she was telling me, you know, how much everything that you explained to me now is exactly what a victim of CSA is. And so that's when I started realizing, wow, this problem, when we argue about this, when we bicker about this, when we fight about this, I'm feeling this way. It's because of the trauma that I experienced when I was little. So she helped me discover that part. But the moment I discovered that, I still never like to use the word victim. I like to use, I was abused, and I had to start the work now of uproot or just completely rid myself of all those problems that were associated with the fact that I was abused when I was a kid. And so it takes time. You will never really completely disassociate yourself from it because it's the past is part of you. But all you can do is to not live that victimhood life and saying, oh, this happened to me, therefore I have the right to treat people this way. I have the right to be this way. I have the right to procrastinate. I have the right to do a whole lot of things. So, I mean, the key is to not live a victimhood life and get up and do something for yourself and keep the train moving and stay positive.
Do those transgressions still knock on your door today?
Yes, yes, yes. The key is whenever they come knock on your door, you have a nice shotgun ready to blast them. Obviously, I'm I'm joking, this metaphorical shotgun, but in your head, you have to arm yourself with the right tools. And what do I mean by that? So for me, being my past, things that I went through, they're very triggering. And there are days where they get the best of me. But I found out what the truth was a long time ago. And then when my wife found out what I went through and helped me put a name to it, then I use those tools to really fight those emotions, those triggers, right? So it's about understanding what you went through and how to deal with it. And understanding like dealing with it is not just putting it in the closet or not talking about it or just do things that really don't attack the problem head on, right? If you need to do therapy, do therapy. Open up to somebody, to a therapist, to get the help that you need. If you need to pray about it, which is what I did a lot, I prayed a lot, I meditate, I developed different ways to kind of talk about how to deal with it. But it's all about figuring out what you need to do to get to the bottom of it and not let it get the best of you.
In today's world, people tend to have a lot of justifications for living with their traumas. People who live in their victimhood and they make it their entire identities. What is your reaction to those type of people?
My reaction is that you are living with the equivalent of a cancer. Now, it might not necessarily kill you, but it is indeed doing a lot of damage to your well-being, your personality, your potential. And what do I mean by that? When you live with that kind of energy, it does not help you, again, live to your full potential. Now, remember at the beginning, I talked about being a victim versus living the victimhood mentality. It's by definition, if you've been abused, if you've been hurt, if somebody did something to you, you are a victim. But that doesn't mean you get to stay in it, or that doesn't mean that when you stay in that type of mindset, it is advantageous or helpful. And so I'll give you an example. In America, there are a lot of people, especially in the Black community. It's not a one-way street by any means, but especially in the Black community, at least I can speak for my people. I don't like when people use that, but my ethnicity, where the race card gets played a lot. And a lot of times it's certainly not warranted. I'm one to believe that for you to use that, you should have definitive probable causes. So what I mean is that you can't just look at somebody and say that you're racist based off of the fact that whatever it is didn't go your way. You didn't get the loan. You went to McDonald's, a white person served you your meal, you wanted fries and they didn't give you fries for some reason. Maybe they forgot. You don't need to use a race card for that. You went to school and you got a bad grade and you thought you did better than what you got, and the teacher's white or Asian. They don't have to be racist for that. You waved to your neighbor, somehow they didn't see you and they didn't wave back. They don't have to be racist for that. I think you get my point, right? The point is, if I may elaborate, it's harder to tell somebody's racist because we all flawed. We all make mistakes. We all sinful. Nobody's perfect. So somebody could be going through something really tough. Their kids in the hospital. Somebody just like they're going through a death in the family. And that's the time that you just so happen to wave to them. They didn't wave back, or they get nasty to you for any reason. That does not make them racist. And so when you live that victim mentality, like when you have that mindset, it's so easy to default into that. Matter of fact, that's your default. If somebody of a different race does something to you, you tend to say it's racist. And I know that for a fact because, again, we've been seeing it in the media. And I have an aunt of mine. My wife is white. When I first introduced her, or when I first told her that I was dating my wife, and she asked me what ethnicity, and I said white, her antennas went up and said, like, be careful because those white people and stuff like I'm not going to go into details, but she had a whole bunch of negative things to say about her, the fact that she was white. So you see, my point is, you should not be so quick to judge and to use that card. I'll give you an example that's even more personal. When I was in high school, I was playing soccer, and we're playing a different team that was about an hour and a half away from my school. And so I was playing the position of striker. I was the captain of my team, so I was pretty good. So I had scored 3 goals on the kid that was guarding me. He got so upset that he couldn't guard me. At first, he started pushing me around even when I didn't have the ball. Then he called me the N-word with the hard ER. And then he spat on me. Now I can use at least the last two to justify that he's racist. And I would be right, because if you're going to use the N-word, you're white and I'm black, we know the origin of the N-word. That's pretty self-explanatory. So I can easily claim that he was racist, right? But there is another angle to it, which is the one that I've been trying to explain, is that we are playing soccer. He can't guard me. He's frustrated. What's the one thing that he can use that would for sure get to me? Him looking like a racist. And it did get to me. My coach had to hold me back because I wanted to fight him because, I mean, he spat on me and he called me the N-word. Oh man, it was about to go down. But there's another angle to it. So for me, it's more, I'm not going to make a case that he wasn't racist. But to me, it doesn't really matter that much, because like at the end of the day, I don't want to live my life as a victim. I don't want to live my life as somebody who's always looking for, is he racist? Is she racist? Is he doing something racist? What's going on here? That's a cancer. It's doing more damage than you realize. And so that's the mindset that we need to change as a society, as people, because there is a lot more waiting for us on the other side of that if we don't live our lives that way. So
For those people that you just elaborated on, what is your advice for them? Say they don't have the tools to live like you, to live in power. What's your advice for them?
my advice to anybody in that category that we're discussing right now with having the victimhood mentality is understanding what it's doing to you. That's the first thing, because if you do understand what it's doing to you, it's a little bit easier to try to fix that. Be open-minded and don't be so sensitive to the matter. I can guarantee you right now, some of you watching this video, you have plenty of opposite things to say to me, because you're like, oh no, like people are just racist, people are just awful, like can you believe this? Like, instead of dissecting the situation and kind of see it in a more wide-eyed lens, meaning if you think somebody was racist because they're a different ethnicity, a different race, try to use the exact same thing that they said to you, the exact same scenario, but just change the race. Maybe it's just a black person saying the same thing to you a white person said. Like, you have to understand people are just flawed. People are just who they are. But you may not be able to change people, but you can change you. That's something that we all have the power over. We can change what we say. We can change what we do. We can change our approach. We can change a lot about ourselves, but it's hard to change people. And the crazy part is when you change yourself, something crazy happened. People tend to change. Your actions kind of speak louder than what you could have possibly said to them, right? You can say like, stop being racist, stop being racist. But if you stop acting like a racist yourself, if you stop acting so judgy yourself, if you stop acting in such a negative, pessimistic way, that kind of stuff is contagious sometimes. So understanding what living that life, having your life being defaulted into like a racist type of person and trying to use that mentality of like, oh, my ancestors were this, like we were slaves then, they did this to us. And now, like, that doesn't help you get anywhere. But you have to understand that. And to live your full potential, you have to add more happiness, more joy, more truth, more peace to your life, and stop having, which is probably one of the biggest one, having somebody out there having control over your life. Think about how easy it is for you to just, for your day to just turn, take a U-turn, like a instant turn. The moment somebody is not nice to you and they just so happen to be a different ethnicity, you default into this race thing. Like, there must be racism, there must be this. All your day, now you're just angry, you're just upset, you're just this and that. Stop letting somebody else having so much power over your life, how you live your life. Choose to be happy more, choose to be more positive, choose to be more optimistic and more resilient, and think more rationally, not so emotionally. Emotion tends to send us in a dark place very quick. Hey, yeah, you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Like, subscribe, and share it. Help me spread the word.